I'm meeting these people, and like the more I'm talking to them, they're like, dude, like this is crazy. Like I've never heard of you. Like that company that's huge out east, right? He's like, dude, I've never heard of you guys before. And it's because I've literally had my head down and I've literally just been pushing forward because I thought building the biggest home service business I could, I was going to change so many lives, right? Well, I built this humongous home service business, but I didn't really change many lives. Honestly, I changed the lives of my employees, right? My employees are living way different lives. But like, what about all the business owners that aren't my employees? What about all the families that they have? What about all their employees? How can I help change more lives? Well, this is it. This is literally an answer to my prayer. I moved to Arizona to help start a business or to start a greenfield of business here. And it ended up being a journey of getting me into coaching and helping other people worldwide on their businesses so they can have the life that they always wanted. They can have the relationship with God that they've always wanted. They can have the relationship with their children they always wanted, and they can have financial freedom.
This episode is brought to you by Pierre Tax and Accounting, led by CPA Eric Pierre, a seasoned accounting and tax expert with years of experience helping individuals and businesses navigate complex financial landscapes. Whether you need personal tax planning, business tax strategy, bookkeeping, or financial planning support, Eric and his team are committed to helping you protect and grow your financial future with clarity and confidence. To get expert guidance you can trust, check out Pierre Tax and Accounting at pierreaccounting.com. This episode is brought to you by my friend Silas Lagoy over at ForgeMark Wealth. If you're a high-income business owner or professional and feel like you're getting crushed by taxes, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not stuck. ForgeMark Wealth specializes in advanced legal tax strategies and wealth planning designed to help you keep more of what you make, grow it efficiently, and actually build long-term freedom, not just income. If you're making serious money but don't have a real strategy behind it yet, I highly recommend connecting with Silas and his team. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Big Hitters Podcast. I'm joined by Ben Jordan, who is the owner of Action. You guys do plumbing. You guys do the whole 9 yards, don't you?
Yeah,
HVAC, electrical.
Plumbing, HVAC, electrical. Yeah, we do it all.
I remember, Ben, when I messaged with you and you were like, yeah, I'll come on the show. And then I looked you up. I'm like, holy crap, this guy's a stud. He owns a huge company. So I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped to have you on the show, man. Tell us your story. And I know you had a huge your fitness has been a huge turnaround point. Tell us just about Action and your story.
Well, it's crazy, is I come from a family of 14 kids, right? I'm one of 14 kids. I'm the third oldest, right? There's 9 boys, 5 girls in my family. And so as you can imagine, right? Growing up in a huge family, we're going to be doing something in the trades, right? My dad ran an appliance repair business, right? So I grew up in people's homes ever since I was little, right? Answering phone calls, dispatching technicians, and then actually running calls. And, but it was in appliance repair. So I fixed washers, dryers, all that kind of stuff. But I remember when I was a little kid, my dad was driving us down the road. I grew up in Colorado, right? And his business is right there of Colfax chambers. And I remember we're driving down the road one time and he's like, you see that bank over there? He's like, I know the plumber that owns that bank. I'm like, you know a plumber that owns a bank? I'm like, what the heck are we doing in appliance repair? I was a little kid, right? And I remember that it just kept circulating through my mind all the way through high school, right? After high school, I went on a 2-year mission for my church, right, in southern Spain. I get back from there, right? I had a wrestling scholarship, ended up going to CSU Pueblo, and I did a semester there, and I wasn't learning anything. So I'm like, you know what, man? I'm not going to waste any more time. I ended up leaving, moved to Utah, and I always had that thing in the back of my mind, plumbers can own banks, right? I'm like, this is crazy. So when I got to Utah, I searched out the first plumber I could find, got a job with him, ended up buying his business about, what was it? Probably 12 to 14 months after I started working for him. And, it's all been history since then. It was just a one-man van. We call it in the trades, a man in a van. It was just him. And then it became him and me. And, when I bought the business, I paid for a couple of trucks and the name. And, we were probably doing about 500,000 in revenue a year. And, we've since then, grown to 4 different states. We're in Colorado, we're in Utah, we're in Arizona, and we're in Idaho. And, across all the brands that we have, we're doing about 75 million a year.
That's insane. I do not talk to a lot of guys doing 75 million a year. This episode is brought to you by 10X Nerds. If you're a business owner doing real revenue, there's a good chance you're overpaying in areas you haven't even looked at. Things like credit card processing, insurance, telecom, and more. 10X Nerds comes in, audits your expenses across 30 plus categories, and finds immediate savings. And here's the kicker. They only get paid if they save you money. It's a complete no-brainer. If you want to keep more of what you make, go check them out at 10xnerds.com. This episode is brought to you by Rutkowski Law Firm. If you're a business owner or have built a level of wealth, but you don't have your estate plan dialed in, you're exposed. Rutkowski Law Firm helps families and business owners protect their assets, avoid probate, and make sure everything transfers exactly how it should. This isn't just paperwork, it's a real strategy to protect your legacy. If you haven't looked at your plan in a while or don't have one, go to rutkowskilawfirm.com. How, just getting past, I think 20 million is really tough for people when they're really grown and scaling. What were the different break points that you felt like there were along the way, and how did you break past them?
Well, honestly, the different owners that I talk to nowadays, right? I mean, it's incredibly hard to get past 5 million, right? Yeah. When you get past 20 million, then you open up a whole different freaking wave of problems. But the thing is that most people in the trades, right? Most business owners in the trades, they're not business owners, right? They're technicians that were really good at their last job. And then they're like, I can do this on my own. And then all of a sudden they move into that next position, right? They move in that next phase of their life where they start a company, right? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh crap, right? I got to deal with marketing now. I got to deal with employees now. I got to deal with, everything that comes with the business, right? Rising costs. In the last 2 months, gas prices have doubled. So it's most business owners don't understand that it comes down to your systems and processes that make these businesses run, right? And I had to figure that out because, I came from a family-owned business, but it wasn't a business that were we really talked about all the stuff. We never were really taught this stuff, and I definitely didn't learn it in school. So it was one of those things I had to go through to figure out your systems and your processes, right? Your culture that you build within your company. If you don't have systems and processes, you don't build an actual culture, right? You're not really building a business. You're building another job. And this job is way more demanding than your last job. And it probably pays worse too.
I mean, yeah, it's insane to me to see the gamut of the business owners. But I think the guys that I've talked to, so not to throw out a few names, but I've had the Bell Plumbing guys on. I've had the Plumbline guy on, and those guys are not the guy that started out in the truck. They're all business guys. They've gone to business school, that some of them have taken on private equity, and so I think to your point, eventually you really have to get past those break points, think strategically about systems, processes, the who, the how, beyond just offering. This is the question. A lot of times the $3 to $5 million guys, I'm like, what makes you different? It's oh, we're honest. I'm like, I don't am I not talking to a bunch of shady guys every day? I have no idea. Who is not honest? Am I missing something? So,
and that's just it right there. Is what separates you, right? What is going to take your business to the next level? And, for us, we really figured out that we didn't want to buy the same customer over again, right? And so we figured, I literally would thought to myself, I'm like, how can I own my customers, right? And I'm not saying hey, they have to stay with me, but how can I provide a service, right, that is so phenomenal that these customers would never dream of going anywhere else, right? And it's not just that they wouldn't dream of it, that I created a system that allowed them to stay within my group, right, to be serviced by me and only me, okay? And that's why, I went into, HVAC.
How do you do that?
Well, it's just creating a membership model, right? It's just creating that membership model because if you're top of mind, you think they're going to pick up the phone and call somebody else? Imagine this, right? And we have all this stuff in front of our face all the time. We have these models in front of our face that they teach us this stuff, but we just don't key on it because, we think we're just home service guys. We're just blue collar, right? But like, think of the gym model. For the longest time, I had a 24-hour gym pass, right? But I lived next to a Lifetime. And I would always drive about 10 to 15 minutes away to go to this 24-hour. Why? Not because the price really mattered. It's because I had a membership there. And when I had that membership, I was like, dude, I'm not going to go to Lifetime, right? When it's right there, I should have just switched the membership. But I was like, you know what? I've already been with these guys for so long. I already know the gym. I already know what times to go. My whole routine is already there. I already trust them. Yeah. So when I got into my home service business, I was like, you know what? Like, these customers already have trusted me with their business, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think, and it's not if something happens in their home, when something else happens in their home, don't you think that they would much rather have a guy that they've already trusted with their business once come back and do some other work for them? 100%, right? And then my close percentage on those jobs went from, a typical 40, 50% close rate to 80, 90% close rates. And it's like you go from wishing that you had, jobs every day to knowing that you're going to have jobs every day. And then you can strategically say, hey, I know the rate of my growth in my business because I can predict it, because there's a model that I can predict it now. Instead of saying, hey, hopefully if I advertise enough on Google, right, I call it the shotgun effect, right? The marketing strategy that most home service guys have is the shotgun effect, right? They just plaster stuff out there and hopefully something sticks. But like, instead of doing that and hoping that Google's going to produce for me or hoping those mailers are going to produce for me, I know that just staying in front of my customers and making sure that my customers know that I'm there to take care of them, that all of a sudden, boom, I'm good to go, right? I'm going to have consistent work, even in slow times. I'm going to have consistent work, and I'm going to have consistent work with customers that already trust me, that don't need a second opinion, right? Yeah. They don't need to wonder if I'm a trustworthy contractor, right? And that's where that whole thing it's funny that you say that, because like most guys are like, oh yeah, we're trustworthy. Yeah, so is everybody else. Okay. And the thing is like, I don't have people price shopping me. Why? Because they know the value that I bring. My customers literally know exactly what I'm bringing. They know the service that they're going to get. And they know that every time that they pick up the phone and they call my business, that they're going to get an answer, and we're going to show up and we're going to take care of a problem. Mm-hmm. And the greatest thing about it too is like, that membership model, right? We go from being, firemen, going to people's homes, putting out fires, to, hey, we can give them options as to take care of problems before they blow up. Imagine, right, if I went to your home and I said, hey, Andrew, your water heater, right, it's getting to the tail end of its life, right? We've been servicing it for the last 3 years, flushing it, doing everything we possibly can. It's getting to that very tail end of its window. And I would probably highly recommend that we take care of this and we just get it out of the way before it blows up and floods your house, or it does this and you don't have hot water, or whatever the scenario is, right? We've heard every scenario. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we're providing an option to a customer instead of giving them an ultimatum when it does blow up. That's the reason why I talk to thousands of home service guys. That's the reason why most home service businesses, that's why most home service guys are hated. And they're hated because...
Do you have like a program, Ben? Do people reach out to you? Is it acquisitions? Why are you talking to all these home service guys?
Yeah, no, I literally just last year, I started up my coaching side of the business, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm still operating, right? I'm still operating at a very high level. I don't do a lot of the day-to-day work anymore. I've really created a group of guys that handle all that stuff. And when I started this business and it changed my whole entire life, my whole entire trajectory, I literally was like, I need to make an effect on guys in the home service. I need to be able to teach them how I did it so they can have the same lifestyle, right? And it's all about like having it all. They can have the lifestyle, they can have the body, right? It's like, I used to be 400 pounds. I was your stereotypical plumber, fat, out of shape, right? And working all day long for no money. And so like, I changed all of that, right? I make great money. I live the life I want to live. I have time with my family that I want to have. I get to go on vacations, all that good stuff. But like, I did that within the trades. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to create a program where I can help other guys do that, right? Where I can literally walk them down a path that they don't have to fall in the same freaking pitfalls that I did. They don't have to go and suffer the same things that I suffered to get to where I'm at. They can literally cut the check, literally, right? This is a saying, cut the check for speed. They can pay me to teach them exactly what they need to implement in their business to change their whole life.
Mm. Are you this intense when you're with your kids? Like, you're very like, you got a lot of energy, man. I love it.
Dude, if you wanted to get noticed in my household, you had to be crazy. All right. So it's like, if you wanted attention, you better freaking speak up. But honestly, my kids are freaking whirlwinds. Like, I don't think I have enough energy with them sometimes. Right.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
But no, honestly, I'm extremely passionate. I'm a passionate guy. Right. Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people don't have nowadays. They don't have passion. Right. Because they don't have dreams. And they don't have dreams because, they've been told that they have to live a certain way the rest of their life. They have to live within certain bounds because they're in a certain style, in a certain industry. Okay. And I'm completely opposite. There's nothing on this planet, especially living in this country that we live in, that says that you have to live a certain way. Mm-hmm. Right. You can be whatever you want to be. You can make whatever money you want to make. You can literally, right. I've literally been, I went from 400 pounds. I weigh 200 pounds right now. I got a 6-pack now and I go to the gym every day. Most guys in the trades are like, you don't have enough time to work out. I'm like, dude, you have enough time for whatever you make time for. Right? If you want to make time for your family.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you want to make time for your family, you can make time for your family. If you want to make time to go to the gym, you can make time to go to the gym. And it's those little things that will literally separate and they will change your whole entire life just by the little thing.
What's up, everybody? This episode is sponsored by Exitwise. If you're a business owner thinking about selling your company, whether that's now or years down the road, you need to know what your business is actually worth and how to maximize that exit. That's exactly what Exitwise does. They help you prepare, position, and ultimately sell your business by assembling a world-class team of M&A experts around you, guiding you from valuation all the way through closing. If you want to know what your business is really worth and how to increase that number before you sell, go check out exitwise.com and get ahead of it.
I'd love to talk to you about hiring, maintaining skilled labor. I mean, you have a machine, dude, that 80 million in revenue, and that is the number one pain point I talk to with operators. I mean, there's a lot of pain points, but I was just talking today, maybe you have a solution for me, dude. If I had a blue collar recruiting firm that sponsored my podcast, I would clean up because it's every freaking guy, hiring them, finding them, retaining them. And it's getting harder and harder to do it. And then not to mention, I have sometimes people can't even show up to the podcast. It's like, oh yeah, my guy, my best tech didn't show and my whole week is shot, So what have you guys found with Action that has kind of made you able to keep those guys?
Well, honestly, we've never hired from the trades. Everybody is trying to pull. They're trying to literally pull from the same ecosphere, right? They're literally trying to hire from the same pool of people. I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that, right? In this world, you either can compete or you can create, right? And I decided I'm just going to create. I don't want to compete with anybody. I'm so different than everybody else. I don't want to compete. So what I did is I went out and I designed a system that allows me to find guys, right, that weren't in this industry and teach them how to function within this industry, right, depending on whatever you're doing in home services, right, especially in service. If you can't communicate with a customer, you're never going to get a job. And I found out, right, and sales is everything. You literally have nothing until a sale is made, right? So I figured out, okay, if I don't make a sale, I don't get a job. And it doesn't matter how good the plumber is and how freaking much experience he has. If he can't sell something, all of a sudden he's never, ever in a million years going to be able to utilize his skill. So I split up the business, right? I have a sales side and I have an install side. And so what allowed me to scale really hard was instead of trying to teach a plumber to sell, right? I found out it's way easier to teach a salesman to plumb than it is a plumber to sell. And so I just started hiring sales guys guys with sales ability and teaching them how to plumb, right? But they're not the plumbers in there doing the work. And then I hired guys to actually come behind and do the work. And that has allowed me to pull, it's allowed me to pull people from other industries, right? And put them in this industry, which is helping grow the industry because it's dying. Nobody wants to be in home services. Nobody wants to be in plumbing, HVAC, and electrical because they think it's a dirty job that you make no money at.
Except PE.
No. Yeah.
PE wants to be in it.
But guess because they understand the power of it, right? They're the smartest ones around. They're just following the numbers. But the thing is that when I can pull a sales guy from a sales job and I can teach him how to plumb, now all of a sudden I don't have to worry about if he knows how to communicate with the customer. I don't have to worry about if he knows how to sell a job so we can now perform that job. I don't have to worry about him understanding customer service and how to keep customers and keep them long term. I just have to worry about is getting that plumber and not worrying about teaching that plumber how to sell, but getting that plumber to come and follow up that behind that sales guy and do the work.
So question, you hypothetically speaking have a guy, so something's broken in my house. You send out a guy who's not really a plumber. He's a sales guy and he knows enough to be dangerous. He diagnoses it. He gets me to feel warm and fuzzy. He says, you probably need this. And then the next day a truck shows up and they do the work. Is that how that works?
No, honestly, every one of my guys that are sales guys, right? They're licensed plumbers. Every single one of them, right? Every single one of them, they have gone through a certain criteria of how to understand how to diagnose and correctly recommend. So like, let's say your water heater's out, right? I'm going to go to your home, me being a sales guy, right? Which I'm a plumber, but I also know sales. When I go to your home, I understand that your water heater's out. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out your water heater's leaking, okay? Most plumbers are going to come in and be like, oh, your water heater's leaking. You know, it costs this much to change out your water heater. But I'm like, why is your water heater leaking? Right? I'm going to dive in to figure out why your water heater is leaking and why it prematurely went out, right? And how we can avoid this whole entire catastrophe. So yeah, my guys are trained to come in and deal with you and understand your pain points, right? Because we're not selling products. Everybody goes to the same warehouses. They buy the same brands. And they install the same stuff. What separates me and them, right, is that my guys understand that I'm not selling products. I'm not selling a service. I'm selling that customer, right? That customer has unique stuff about them that changes everything, right? How they buy, how they think, right? How they utilize stuff. Hey, and guess what, Andrew? Your water heater is leaking maybe because you've never had a softener in your home. Maybe it prematurely went out because you have so much sediment built up because it's never been flushed. You never had a company come out regularly check your stuff. You don't have hard water, or you have hard water. And guess what? Maybe nobody's ever told you that you can have soft water in your home. Oh my goodness. Like these customers, like, I didn't even know that was possible. Yeah. Well, guess what? I'm the guy that's going to take care of that for you. And yes, I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. And then I'm going to call my install guy and I'm going to say, hey, we have a job here. Here's the whole thing, right? We have a whole process to it. I'm not actually calling my install guy, but like the install department will show up right after that and they're going to get you installed. And then guess what? That sales guy who is very good at talking with customers and very good at taking care of customers' problems and diagnosing what's going on, he can go to the next job and sell that one. Because imagine this. And this was the whole reason why this is the whole reason why I designed this structure, is because I've seen hundreds and hundreds of times over again, guys going into people's homes. Let's say I have a leak in the ceiling, right, on a copper pipe. And I've literally seen one copper pipe in the ceiling get repaired 5 times because that technician, he'll go there and be like, weigh the options. It's going to take me an hour to fix this pipe. I can charge this customer $1,500, $2,000 to fix that pipe. We're good to go. I can go to my next job. But if I tell them they need a whole house repipe, right? Because they have something going on, and guess what? It's going to save them tons of time wasted, tons of time of me freaking repairing this pipe 5 times, and tons of time of having their ceiling damaged, right? By doing a repipe. But guess that repipe is going to take him 3 or 4 days. So let's say he sells that repipe for $20,000. He's going to make he's going to build $20,000 in 3 or 4 days. But if he sells it for $2,000, he can go to the next 5 jobs that he has. See, guys are thinking on just strictly time. But if I have a guy who can sell 20 grand a day, right? I'm not going to bog him down with installs. I'm going to let him go take care of customers, and I'm going to hire the guys to do the installs. Because there's two separate type of people. There's salespeople that understand sales and how to take care of people, and there's people that understand how to install and are very good at install, but they don't want to talk to people.
Yep. So what are you working on with your coaching clients out of curiosity? Like who are these guys that find you? Are they certain a certain threshold? What are they struggling with? And what are the types of transformations you're trying to help them seek?
Honestly, they're coming from all different avenues. I have a company in Pennsylvania that I'm coaching that they're doing 80 million, 90 million a year, right? HVAC company. And then I have some companies that are doing $1 million a year, right? But they're searching me out because they're at a certain point where they feel like they're bottlenecked somehow and that their growth is stagnant. Most small companies, their growth is stagnant because they don't have any systems and processes. That company that I was dealing with in Pennsylvania, they're bottlenecked because they literally had one system and they just executed on that one system, and they didn't understand that they can take care of customers in a lot of different ways, right? Their marketing budget was extremely high. They're billing a lot of money, but they weren't profiting a lot of money, right? So we went in and showed them a whole new framework, a new thing, new structure that's going to increase it's going to increase their top line revenue by 50 million a year.
Yep.
So it's like I have customers doing $1 million, I have customers doing 90 million, but like most of the people that I help and I have the biggest effect on are those guys that just are manning the vans, right? Or maybe they have like 3 or 4 vans on the road and they just can't seem to get over that hump to get out of the van, right? They're working in the business, not on the business. And I bring in my frameworks and my structures, right? My hiring processes, and I literally will help them implement that into their business and flip it around. Like that. I have one client I talked to this morning. Okay. They did 4 million last year. And they said, man, we want to do 10 million. Their freaking crazy goal this year is they want to do 10 million. They wanted to over 2x their income. And I said, okay, well, we can do that. And I remember when they paid me, right, he said, dude, this is the last bit of money I have, right? Like I'm going all in. I said, okay, perfect. He went in all on me. He has been 2.5 months. He called me this morning just to say, hey, thank you so much. And he's like, I paid you all the money I had, right? We started down this process. I just been implementing everything that you say. And he's on every call. He's taking notes. And he's got 650,000 in the bank right now. And it's been 2.5 months.
Shut up.
Dude, and it's ridiculous. And in order to have that kind of effect, right? Like you have to be implementing strategic stuff. And I'm not this hype coach. I'm not a hype coach. I'm not a coach that's gonna make you feel all warm and fuzzy. Like I'm gonna tell you exactly how it is, right? And I'm gonna say, hey, this is what we need to implement, this is what we need to do, and this is how we're gonna do it. Because I've already been there. I've already been in those situations where I wasn't making money and I didn't know why. And then I figured it out. And now I know exactly why. And I know exactly the strategic way to help these companies get to where they need to get. Obviously, you got to put in the work, right? I mean, if I give you a diet plan as your health coach and you don't follow it, obviously you're going to continue being fat. But if you do follow it, right, and you do everything that I'm telling you to do, like obviously it shows up. But yeah, like to answer your question, I mean, we have companies in all walks, right? Yep. And we literally will go through a diagnostic process. We'll go in and figure out where your business is losing money, right? Figure out whether it's a systems problem, a sales problem. But 99% of the time, it's systems and sales is where businesses are lacking.
Yeah. Hey, you just are a passionate guy. What's one thing we haven't talked about so far? Like, I want to make sure I hit on all the greatest hits of Ben Jordan. What's one thing we haven't talked about that gets you fired up?
Oh, dude. I mean, there's a million of them, but honestly, is the biggest thing that gets me fired up, right, is that knowing that home service guys can have it all in this world, right? I have guys working for me right now that are 25 years old and they're making more than doctors are making, right? They have great family lives. They have great spiritual life, right? A lot of people in the trades, they think it's taboo to talk about spirituality, right? They think it's taboo to talk about mindset, right? They think it's taboo to talk about, hey, you can have a good family life. You can go on vacation. You can do all this stuff. if you're following the right process, right? And that's what gets me fired up, is that I know the framework. I know exactly how I can get these guys to have the life that they want to have. Okay. But most guys in the trades are too prideful just to reach out and say, hey, man, like, what do you think about this? I got a DM from a guy that I've been DMing this guy for 5 months, back and forth. And he literally wrote me a message the other day. He's like, dude, I just want to tell you thank you so much. Right. And he hasn't even bought my coaching program, but he's like, I just want to tell you thank you so much for your example and talking to me about stuff. Because like, I'm an open book. Most people, they freaking come to me and I'll give them every little secret I got. But he's like, thanks for talking to me. He's like, dude, in the last 5 months, I've lost 60 pounds.
Wow.
I'm like, what? I'm like, that's crazy. Right. And it's all because he just like found my page one day, and was like, dude, this is crazy. And then he just watches it and then he takes it back to his guys, and his guys are growing, his company's growing. And I mean, we had a call the other day, and we're going to figure out a way to help his company grow a lot more. But like, he's on fire. Like he's ready to go. Most people, they buy into these coaching programs and, they're not consistent with it. And consistency is the only thing that'll get you anywhere in this world, right? They're not consistent with it. And they're like, oh, that stuff doesn't work. Really, it was just their belief system and their dedication is the reason why it didn't work.
Yeah. Results, something in Rise Up Kings, they always say you can infer your intent based on your results. You're getting exactly what you should be getting based on the effort or the energy that you're putting into it. Mm-hmm. The diet one is just a powerful one. It's like, well, when I eat all my kids' Z bars at night before we go to bed, why do I still have some love handles? Well, it's because I've been snacking on my kids' Z bars every night. I got to stop doing that. I just am curious about the name Action. Where did the brand and the name come from? Because it's pretty sticky. It's pretty powerful.
Well, honestly, Action is a brand. So my dad's company, when I was growing up, his name was Action, right? And it all goes back to the phone books, right? Everybody used to advertise in the yellow pages, right? And in the yellow pages, it was all like, ACT, right? ACT would put you at the front of the book, right? And then you get your double truck and they would flip to that whatever section it was, and they'd find you, right? And so everybody had these names that started with A's. Well, when I went to Utah, I didn't own the name Action. And Action Plumbing, when they were in Utah, they were the biggest company around. They were huge. And I told my brother in 2013, I said, dude, one day we're going to own Action. And I mean, they were everywhere. You couldn't go anywhere and not see Action. And it just happened to be in 2020, right? The owner of Action, she called me and said, hey, I've been seeing you around, and I've been seeing what you're building, because my other company was called Connections, right? And she said, hey, I've been seeing you around. I see what you're doing. I see that you're young, and I want my business to go to somebody who's going to take it somewhere. And they were free falling. Their business was losing so much money. I mean, their brand was struggling. And so I was like, you know what? I said, you know what? I bought the business, and in 1 year we 4x'd it, right? Mm-hmm. And then we just started just moving and making all these moves. But like, it was one of those things that like, it was an extremely big blessing to me. But, Action has always been a name that's been near and dear to my heart, because that's the company I grew up with when I was a kid. And so when I bought Action, like, it was like, it felt home, right? And I love the word action. Right? And one of the frameworks I teach is on belief, right? Belief will create an action, and that action will create a result, whether it's positive or negative, right? If you have a negative belief, it'll create a negative action. Negative action will create a negative result, right? But we teach that all the way through our system, right? And it's that framework that nobody talks about in the trades. Okay? One thing is taboo about me is I train my guys 5 days a week. Every day, they're in my office and we're training every single day. We're role playing an hour a day, every day. Why? It's because my customers deserve better.
Which guys?
My sales guys, my install guys, everybody. And the reason why we do that is because our customers deserve more. The only reason we're in business is because our customers. So why would I send a guy out to somebody's home and practice on them when I have a facility here that they can practice on right here. And we're going to be able to critique and figure out what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. Right? There's no such thing as good in this industry. I mean, in life, there's no such thing as good, right? There's trained and untrained. Which one are you going to be? You have the option to be trained or untrained. Which one are you going to be? And I choose trained every single day. So I train my guys, and I train my guys, and I train my guys, and we do it every day. And that's why we've grown so much. That's why we're taking over every city we go into. Mm-hmm. And it's addicting. Winning is addicting, right? And that's why when people come into our business, they win, and they're like, dude, we're sticking around here. This is a winning culture, right? And Andy says it all the time, right? Yeah, we put the cult in culture, 100%, right? 1,000,000,000%, we put the cult in culture because our guys, they show up here and they're family, right? I still do barbecues at my house. You know, like my top guys, I still let them drive my cars. You know, it's like, I to this day, when guys are doing good, right? I'm like, hey, what do you want to do this month? And they're like, oh, I want to drive your G-Wagon. Perfect. Throw them the keys. Bring it back. Don't scratch it, you know? But like, that's not what we do. It's just like, we live that life. And I don't like living a life where I'm the only one benefiting and my guys are the ones suffering. Yep. And they're the ones doing all the work, right? If we're going to win in this world, and I've said this since I first got into business, in order to win in business and in life, you got to have the 3 wins, right? My customers got to win, my technicians got to win, and the company's got to win, right? And in this industry, everybody only thinks about themselves, right? Most of the business owners, they only think about themselves, right? Most of the technicians, they only think about themselves, right? And nobody thinks about the customer. The customer is just a stepping block to get to wherever they want to get to. Yeah. And that's what's hard. And that's what keeps people down. You know, if you change your mindset, you change your attitude, you change the way that you're operating, I mean, big things can happen. Huge things can happen. Trust me, I wasn't even in this industry 12 years ago. I got into this industry, right? And we made a freaking humongous business, right? And now my coaching company, dude, I'm going to be in all 50 states in the next year. I'll be coaching a company in all 50 states in the next year. Why? Because winning's addicting, obviously, but because of the way that we run our business is so different than everybody else. Because I never intended to compete with anybody. I intended to create something completely different. And yeah, obviously, you know, like I get one of the most famous like comments I get on my posts. Oh, it sounds like another Nexstar training. It's like, honestly, I've never been to a Nexstar training, but it must be good if it sounds like that. That's what I always say. I'm just like, dang, Nexstar must be good if they sound like me. But that's just the thing, right? Is that there's so many avenues, right? We're living in an age of the most information possible. Like we live in an age where we have the most information out of any age ever, but we also live in the age of the least amount of implementation of that information.
Ben, I feel like I want to have you back on at some point. This has been a lot, dude. And I feel like we could keep going. Where can people find out more about you if they wanted to?
I tell everybody, right? And I literally give out my cell phone number. If you have a question or you feel like your business is in a place where it needs some help, right? Send me a text message, 801-450-4272, right? There's my cell phone number, right? I give it out to everybody, 801-450-4272. DM me, Ben Jordan Official on Instagram, right? Instagram, Facebook, any one of them, okay? But like the thing is if you truly want help, send me a text message, right? I'll freaking respond right back to you. I got an entire team here of savages that all they want to do is help people win in their business. I literally have customers in every one of the cities that I'm in currently. I literally have customers there that I'm teaching the exact same stuff that I do on a daily basis. And they're like, you're really going to teach us how to do what you do? I said, absolutely. Why? Because I live in an abundancy mindset. My mindset is in abundancy. I know there's more customers out there than I could ever in a million year service. But one thing I understand is that if I can help elevate companies and competition gets tighter, competition breeds excellence. And if I can make other companies better, right, and I can get operators to believe in themselves and they get better, all of a sudden, now customers, when I go to their home, they're like, dang, there is a striking difference in between you and everybody else, right? All these other guys, they're just making everybody better. All of a sudden, who wins? The customer wins. If the customer is winning, right, that allows us to win.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest thing, is like the more customers that we can make happy, the more customers that we can serve, the more money we're going to make.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just it, is like, I know exactly how to help companies skip all the problems that I had when I was in my business. Right. I know exactly how, and talking about PE, just like you were, right? Talking about PE. Trades guys don't understand how valuable their companies are, right? PE understands it, and they understand it on a basis of customers. They're not understanding it on a base of they're going to come in, because the one thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to cheat time. And the way that they're cheating the time, right, is buying companies that have customer databases. And then they utilize the customer database to be able to cheat the time, because then they don't have to go out and have a humongous, marketing acquisition time frame, right? They have them all right there, and they have all these customers that trust them, and they just utilize that to grow. And that's literally it. So all of these companies out there in every city that I'm in and every city that I'm not in, right? There's so much room to grow, and there's so much room to freaking make money and have better lives and have better time with your family, have more of a relationship with God, right? Have more of a relationship with your kids. And it's all in the systems. That's it.
Well, Ben, this could be an answer to prayer, man. I've been hoping to find a coach that actually, I have guys come on the show all the time, and they know they need coaching. They're like, yeah, I've been needing it. And it's always like EOS or, contractor breakthrough or something like that. But man, I would love to be flipping them to you. It'd be way more fun. So,
dude, honestly, like, and that's the thing, is like, I've been on I just barely went on Brad Lee's podcast like 2 weeks ago, right? And I'm going down to Florida. I'm speaking at one of Andy's events in Florida coming up here, right? When Myron Golden and those guys are going to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm meeting these people, and like the more I'm talking to them, they're like, dude, this is crazy. Like, I've never heard of you. Like that company that's huge out east, right? He's like, dude, I've never heard of you guys before. And it's because I've literally had my head down, and I've literally just been pushing forward, because I thought building the biggest home service business I could, I was going to change so many lives. Right. Well, I built this humongous home service business, but I didn't really change many lives. Honestly, I changed the lives of my employees, right? My employees are living way different lives. But what about all the business owners that aren't my employees? What about all the families that they have? What about all their employees? How can I help change more lives? Well, this is it. This is literally an answer to my prayer. I moved to Arizona to help start a business, or to start a greenfield of business here. And it ended up being a journey of getting me into coaching and helping other people worldwide on their businesses, so they can have the life that they always wanted. They can have the relationship with God that they've always wanted. They can have the relationship with their children they always wanted, and they can have financial freedom. That's just it. And that is the essence of what we teach.
Amen, dude. Yeah. A year ago, I was stuck in a business I hated. God told me to shut it down, create freedom for business owners. So it's like, it's either a prison or it can be the most freeing thing. And I agree with you, man. I think that I know that for me, man, like I get the mindset sometimes, like I'll even just notice, we had a dinner the other night with my staff, and we were celebrating, a year in business, we hit $1 million in revenue, and we left the dinner. And I immediately I said something to my wife. I was like, I'm really sad that so-and-so wasn't there, and that we didn't hit this number. And she's like, do you see what you did? You left the dinner, and immediately you found something negative, and you were supposed to be there celebrating like an amazing thing. And dude, it's crazy how the devil just like tells you lies. It's just even that small shift in your mindset is the difference between freedom and being stuck, And so I love the coaching component. I'm all on board. Yeah. I love that.
And that's just it, right? If we can get more people on board, if we can get more people understanding that there's a better way out there than just suffering through, right? There's a better way of thinking. That's it. We won. honestly, the devil wants nothing more than for us to be miserable. And we don't have to be miserable, right? We can live the life that we want to live, and we can have the fun that we want to have, and we can make the impact that we want to have on this world. As long as we believe and we have the right mentality.
Bro, this is where my crazy comes out. I believe the next big movement of God is coming in the blue collar marketplace. And I think it's going to be when these guys realize that they don't need a seminary degree to plant a church, and they have a church right freaking there. Like they could have one right there, be baptizing people. And that's my vision. That's what I want to see the Lord do, is like, I believe that we need to move outside the confines of a traditional four-walled church, and business owners, all the heroes of the Old Testament own businesses, dude. And the disciples, Jesus told them to lay down their nets. Like, these guys were in the marketplace. And I believe that in the marketplace, I have an opportunity to do more ministry than most guys that have an MDiv. So, yeah.
That's it. That's it. This is a hoodie Andy gave me right here, right? Work hard, trust God, right? That's it right there. I wear this hoodie almost every day. Work hard, trust God. That's it, man.
Love that. Well, Ben, where can people, did I already ask you this? Where can people find out more?
Yeah, they, like I said, give me a call, send me a text message, 801-440-4272.
Before we had tech issues. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Don't go anywhere because I want to keep talking, but man, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.